Like that is your strength, is to be nurturing and to, be a mama bear on behalf of your artists. Like you're never going to be a shark. You're never going to be cutthroat. Sorry, lady, you're just not. A personal relationship could jeopardize somebody's career.
Hello, my fellow Martians. My name is Harry Mars, and this is the On Mars Pod, where we take a deep dive into creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and other inspiring Martians alike. Today, we are joined by Amy Rogers, an artist manager and vice president of a boutique record label.
If there's not a seat at the table, you build a damn table. Oh, wow, you're going to make me puddle up. Beyond business, they value our relationship as human beings. And so that's really important to me now.
Hello, my fellow Martians. Today on Mars, we are joined by an executive vice president of a boutique record label, an artist manager, and the best band mom to ever live. Everybody, please welcome Amy Rogers. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. That's quite the intro.
Hey, so on Mars, we take a deep dive into creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and other inspiring Martians alike. So that's why I'm stoked to have you on, because we've worked together in the past. You've managed me when I was in the band that I was in, teammate Markus, in this modern. It's funny because we talked about this off air, but how I had Markus on, I had Jack on, I had Thaddeus on, I had Timo on, and they're all managed by you, and we've talked about you in all these episodes.
Yeah, and Chase, he's adopted.
Yeah, exactly. He's
been adopted into the family as the photographer and videographer. So,
exactly, yeah, it's all in the family here. But it's cool that we all are in the same circle. So, I mean, that's part of the reason why how I was telling you earlier, how because we're all so connected, being able to have this platform to bring people on, tell their stories. And yeah, it's cool to be able to connect some dots. Just like, oh, this is the Amy that they were talking about. It's like, so it's really cool. And I'm stoked to get into it.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm grateful to be here and to, I guess, be included on all those shout outs.
Absolutely. No, so I want to start off. Did you grow up in Nevada? Is that correct?
For the most part, yeah. I'm from Wyoming originally, and I moved in about 6th grade to Nevada, middle of nowhere, population 6,000, and I didn't come here until about 7-8 years ago.
So growing up in Nevada, those early days, what were those early passions that you had before?
Yeah, I was always interested in film and music. I used to watch documentaries as a kid. I was a weird kid. Star Wars, anything pop culture I was addicted to. And music, of course. And I remember actually when my parents were telling me about, we were moving, they said there's no radio station there. And I cried because I'm like, how am I going to listen to music? It's such a big part of my everyday life, listening to radio, on the weekends, getting the little tape deck out and recording my favorite songs.
Yeah, off the radio.
Yeah. And there was going to be nothing like that. So the passions kind of took a little bit of a back burner for a while. I kind of always wanted to be a DJ when I was a kid. I thought that's where it would live. Yeah, it was either an astronaut or a DJ. And I realized I'm afraid of heights and I'm not very good at high level math. So yes, had to be something music or film related.
That's pretty cool. It's like DJ or astronaut. Nothing in between.
Oh.
I love that. So that's kind of cool. I mean, that kind of makes sense early on that you wanted to be a DJ because obviously you had a love for music. You were listening to music. So do you recall like early on when your parents were like playing music around the house? Is that something that you have early memories of?
No, they weren't terribly musical. In fact, my dad kind of stuck to Southern rock. Okay. That was all we had around the house.
Nice.
But I do remember my mom had a record player. And she had this huge collection of older records like Linda Ronstadt and like really what I would say at the time were like classical rock and indie and pop artists, which I didn't really get into that much. But one of my first jobs I ever had was like babysitting for a neighbor. And I remember my first purchase was 2 records, like Cyndi Lauper, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and Michael
Classic.
Jackson, Thriller.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm old. So
I love
I'm
it.
dating myself a little bit here.
No, those are great.
But then I started using her record player and I started buying records on my own, any chance I had to do that. So
that's when you first started choosing the music you listen to.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the more random or interesting, the more I gravitated to that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I feel like you have a wide range of a variety of music that you like. So, I mean, it makes sense that you were listening to those classics. Man, so I'm gonna take these headphones off because
Okay. I'm starting to get a delay.
Yeah, you hear it? It's like it's kind of messing with me a little.
Yeah, it didn't really start out like that, but it's getting progressively noticeable.
But it's all good as long as everything's recording and.
Sure. There's not really a commercial break you can like go away to, and now we have no headphones on.
Yeah, exactly.
Continuity's wrecked.
Cut to no headphones. I love that. Yeah, because I feel like when you start picking your music, I feel like that's when you really start developing what your like your sense of style in music is. Like when you really start choosing, like, oh, I like this, I don't like this, and you kind of start to get like a sense of what you gravitate towards. Because then that ended up like being the type of music that you loved, ended up translating into music that you ended up managing later on in life and stuff like that. But I want to talk about live shows early on. Was that something like as a kid growing up that you were exposed to, like live performances like that?
Being kind of in the middle of nowhere, there wasn't a whole lot that I remember going to when I was younger. I had like some older cousins that would take me to shows here and there, but nothing that I was like was that standout moment where I need to be, I knew I wanted to be involved in live music. That came, I think, a little bit later.
Yeah.
When I was out of school, we had gone through a period where there was a lot of budget cuts, so there was no more music programs, there was no more art programs. So I joined a nonprofit organization that would bring in performing artists into our small community. And what they would do is they'd go to the schools during the day, they would do like a workshop for kids, and then at night they would have a live public performance.
Nice.
So that was like kind of my first booking experience.
Oh, yeah, without even realizing.
And it was like multidisciplinary performing artists. And I did that for about 10 years. And I noticed my kids really loved it. Any chance they got to go and see a band or, a dance company or something, or a theater company, they would kind of gravitate that themselves. So my youngest was really interested in photography. And so I took her to Warped Tour. That was like our family summer vacation plans every year. As soon as they hit 13, they got to go to Warped Tour. And yeah. And all the kids that were like their friends, when they hit I would never take anyone until they were like a little bit older. 13 was kind of like that magical age where they were a little bit self-sufficient. They could put the sunscreen on. They could remember to drink the water. I didn't have to worry about this health and safety concerns of having a kid at Warped Tour. Yes. So when she turned 13, I was able to take her, and she brought her dad's like point and shoot camera.
Very cool.
And fell in love with it. In fact, she was shooting, I think it was Real Friends was the first band that she ever got to like shoot from the stage. 13 years old, and Kevin Lyman came up to her and was like, hey, if you really like this kid, spend the next year, get a real camera, practice, and I'm going to give your mom my email address, and you can come back and shoot next year if you do the work. And she did. I mean, she babysat. I helped her get her first camera, or her like a real camera with lenses and the whole nine. And she practiced. And so that's when we started doing more shows, because she needed to practice. And there really wasn't a place to do that where we were, except for the artists that we were bringing in. Yeah. So every weekend we would go to either Boise, which was about 4 hours north, Vegas, which was about 5 hours south, Reno, which was about 2 hours east or west, or Salt Lake, which was about 3 hours east. So every weekend we would like pick a show, and she would email and we would hit them up, and I would take her to shows to shoot. And her older brother was kind of leaning towards music business management when he got out of high school. Yeah. So he would go to the shows and kind of look at things from a business perspective. And then my middle son, Ezra, was kind of always interested in the sound portion. So he's studying like sound design and live sound now. and my oldest got his degree in music business management. Doesn't use it anymore. He does construction, which is probably wiser financially.
But he's got it in his back pocket.
Yeah, but all three of them kind of gravitated to something that was like music or art related. And so through taking them to make sure that they were getting various experiences at a young age and could kind of really cultivate their own talents, that's when I kind of became more interested in those things.
That's pretty cool that it didn't even necessarily start with your love of it. It was like your love of your kids to like show them experiences. Then you're like, actually, you know, I kind of
and I enjoyed myself. You know, I would go and get to experience all different kinds of music that I wasn't as familiar with. And
I love that.
And yeah, it was kind of became more of a family activity. And then when the kids were younger, they acted and modeled in LA quite a bit. So there was a time period when we were going to LA and catching shows. And that's where we kind of found more of the emerging artists.
Dang.
So the discovery was cool.
What prompted you to move to Phoenix then? Because, I mean, it sounded like you had a pretty good gig going in Nevada, or like
a big life change, divorce.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah. We had a wine bar and an art gallery that we were booking live music at, and at that point I had started to book festivals and things again to have more opportunities where we were. And some of the artists that I had booked previously were like, hey, if you got to start over, like Phoenix is great, it's sunny, and a lot of my family already lived here, so it seemed like a really good place to start over. And one of the bands and how I actually got into management itself as a career, one of the bands that I had booked a couple of times, Westland. Shout out to Westland. They just put out new music. First time in 5 years.
Shout out Westland, the homies.
Yes, they took some time to focus on themselves and their families, but they're back. And,
I love it.
And they had reached out and just said, like, we think we need a manager. And I was like, I really don't know how to manage a band. I have these skills that are probably pretty transferable, but, I'll do it for free for a while and see if I can get it figured out. And I loved it. Never looked back.
Wow.
Absolutely love management.
So they reached out to you when you were still in Nevada, or did you
we just kind of
online?
Become friends. Yeah. So I'd known Adam Simons for a while, and then had met like Grego and Jared and Kevin through Adam. And so we kind of kept in touch. So when I was talking about starting over, it was like, well, I think I'm coming to Arizona. And Adam was like, dude, if you can do the stuff you're doing here, like, you got to try Arizona.
Nice. That's cool. It's like by the time you got here, you kind of already had a bridge into the Arizona music scene in a way.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because like Westland, I feel like at a time that you were working with them, they were pretty active in the scene. Like, I mean, they, I feel like know a lot of the people around here too. So it's like that was like a connection that led to another connection. Like, you probably met a lot of people like from hanging out with that crew.
And I had booked Adam's other band, Radio Drive By, on multiple occasions. Absolutely loved those guys. They would come and play our small town. They came out and played like my oldest 16th birthday party for us.
Oh, man.
Like they were just
That's
really
so cool.
great guys. And just knowing that when I made that break, I knew I was starting over. I wanted to do everything differently. I wanted to, have a different living situation. I wanted to have a different career. So having that support system kind of funneled me in that direction.
Absolutely. And then when you got to Arizona, is that when you pursued your master's at ASU, or did you do that before you got here?
I actually did that before online.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So by the time you got here, you were just set up to start square one.
I was ready to do something. Yeah. And I had to kind of, I had kids at home, so I had to find something reliable, the old day job.
Yeah.
So you got the day job, and then worked on building my network and developing some of the skills for management that I didn't know until I figured it out along the way. And really helping those guys really helped me understand like how much I really did love it and how much work it was going to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very grateful for the early opportunities and the early support.
Absolutely. I mean, and this was Square One that we're talking about.
Yep.
So
That was my first management company.
Yes.
I started that right before I left Nevada. So
Square One Creative Management. Shout out. What started
longest
it all.
email ever. So glad to get rid of that email.
So many characters.
So many characters.
No, that's cool. But that's like the start of it all, really. And it's just like, it's cool that like you had that experience. And then it was one of those, like you said, like you never looked back. It's like, let me try it out. And then it's just like fell in love with it. And then it's like, as you learned more, you just like fell in love with it more. And that's so cool that you were able to just like keep growing and to parlay that into more opportunities and work with more people and just kind of cement yourself in the industry. That's
been
sick.
really, really fortunate that I had a lot of people willing to step up and teach me things along the way and kind of shorten the learning curve a little bit. Like I had known David Key from Never Let This Go for a number of years. I'd booked them too. And he had transitioned a little bit into more management. And so I still will email him, hey, I got a dumb question. And he always takes the time, to help. And then there's, other booking people and promoters here that were very helpful in teaching me along the way. So I've been very lucky to have mentorship and, making that first connection with like Adam and then with Westland kind of snowballed because that's how I met Marcus.
Exactly.
I met Marcus and at the time he was teammate Marcus. And I remember we were all at Casey Moore's. You may have been at the table. I don't. Those nights were a little foggy, but we were all sitting there. And I just remember Marcus going, "Well, when are you going to manage me?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't know you, but you're really cool, and I don't know the first thing about rap, but man, I want to figure it out." And I just remember like 2 weeks later, it was so coincidental that I had a show fall in my lap. I think it was the Juicy J show or something.
Live
and they were looking for an opener, and I'm like, I think I might have somebody, and it just snowballed from there.
Dang. Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up. I definitely want to dive into that. But real quick, there was something that you had said that I want to kind of touch on that I think is really important. Because when you were getting started, you said you had like somewhat of like a mentor to ask questions and bounce ideas off of that's already doing it. Did you have other mentors or inspirational people that you were looking up to kind of help you get started, or was this all like self-taught and just kind of trial by fire type deal?
So I do have a couple degrees. So I had like some marketing background, and I had some PR background and general business background. But as far as being like completely relevant to the music industry, that's where I like felt like I needed to learn the most and to get my network developed. So I had previously kind of done some work annually at Sundance Film Festival, doing like some venue management and some artist relations. So I kind of knew a few people, because it seems like anybody who's into, visual art, music, film, they all kind of run in the same circles, and a lot of individuals are multidisciplinary. So they're doing different types of projects. And so I kind of knew a few people there that I leaned on. And then again, like through the Warped Tour family, I got Hallie connected, and she started shooting every year. And so there were people who worked within the Warped Tour community that did a lot of like, I went and did production for a couple of people a few years and learned a few things that way. And some of the other folks were really good about, at the time, they were doing these almost monthly workshops on a topic. And so I'm going to forget Jen's last name, but at the time she was kind of the business head of Warped Tour. And she did one on like settling and on advancing shows. And so any opportunity I had to take a workshop or to meet somebody or to email someone and ask a question, I did.
So you're putting in the work to learn and like investing in yourself in that sense too, where it's just like the time. Because it's just like you need to do that when it's like if you don't know how to do these things, you need to seek that leadership and that guidance to be able to be a better version of yourself. If you're trying to do it to the level that you want to, it's
and the artists are always taking the time, to rehearse and to experiment with their sound and to invest in new sound equipment and learn new recording techniques. And they're constantly emerging and evolving in what their needs are. So I just guess early on, I felt like it was my personal responsibility. Like if I was going to do this, I needed to stay 2 or 3 steps ahead and anticipate what they were going to need so that I would be able to network and make those connections or I would have those skills. Or, I read a lot of books. I mean, YouTube videos, anything that I could do and consume that would help me gain knowledge in a particular area where I felt that they were headed. I tried to do that before it became a need. So a lot of late nights of just really, go do the day job, take care of the family, put everybody to bed, and then just like hit the books.
For sure. Just go back to class, basically.
And start emailing people that I knew and just, asking if they had half an hour. Bought a lot of people coffee, like can you meet with me for an hour? Dude. I'll buy you a coffee and tell me what you do so I can understand. And a lot of it too came from just like being willing to say yes to opportunities. If it's like, hey, do you want to do production work at Warped Tour on a 116-degree day, selling T-shirts and helping? Yes, I do. Can you help sell merch at my show this weekend? Yes, I can, because I really felt like in order to be able to assist the artist with building a team, an effective team, I need to understand what those roles look like.
Yeah.
So I can better vet people to place in the path of my artists. And if I didn't understand, even from the grassroots selling merch, would I be as an effective manager? So
yeah, because you have to know the roles to be able to delegate people for those roles to be able to make a better team. So 100%, it's like you have to put the groundwork in, and that's like, and it's so beautiful that like you have that come up story, because it's like it makes sense that like you've been doing this for so long and you have such a deep passion for it, because it's just like this wasn't something where it's just like you were doing it just to like call yourself a artist manager or like do this for your homie or something like that. Because some people stumble into artist management not necessarily with that like same passion or drive to like educate themselves, and they're the ones that make a lot of mistakes and end up like potentially derailing careers and stuff like that if they're put in positions, like especially in situations where like artists will blow up out of nowhere, then they hire their best friend to like be their manager, and then they just shit the bed.
There's a lot of those stories, and that always scared me that a personal relationship could jeopardize somebody's career.
Yeah.
Because I knew I would always, I knew what type of person I was and my character and my integrity in working with people. But I was always a little bit worried that I wouldn't have the skill set that they needed, and that would cause them to not be able to progress in their career. So that was a fear that really fueled like staying on top of the networking and the learning new skills. So
yeah, it's almost like you said, it was almost like a fear of like falling behind. So it's just like you needed to stay 5, 6, 10 steps ahead of the artist and the industry. You want to be like, have your finger on the pulse of the industry too. So it's like you're up to date on the newest streaming standards and like the newest platforms and marketing.
Yep. Marketing campaigns. Yeah. And I know more about Spotify than I even care to think about, because you just have to do those deep dives and constantly be learning, because things are changing, and everybody was kind of shifting to AI. Well, what does that mean? Or, NFTs. Well, what does that mean for the artists? And even if it wasn't something that the artist could immediately adapt to, I always feel like they needed to be aware of that was what was happening, and then they could find their way. But at least they would be educated.
Yeah, for sure. If they didn't know themselves, you could be that person to let them know, like, hey, did you see this new thing? It's just like, and it's kind of a sidebar, but like something we touched on in the Jackson Lee episode, he talked about how you were the one that kind of like nudged him and said like, hey, maybe you should try this whole TikTok thing. this little TikTok thing. Yeah. And then it ended up like, being what it is today. And
sure.
It's like crazy.
And not every opportunity is for everybody, but during the pandemic, he is such a clown and he is such an entertainer. And I was worried about him not having those opportunities to get in front of people and be that person. TikTok was kind of emerging. And so that was something that I was researching, that and like Discord were kind of the pandemic things, buzzwords. You wanted to find your place on those platforms or see if the artist had a place on those platforms. And the more I looked into it, I'm like, Jack, even if he just did his comedy and just got in front of people and connected with people, like I felt like that could be a really good opportunity for him. And then, seeing people's careers and people going viral with their music on TikTok was a little more surprising to me, because his stuff doesn't really translate that way, but it doesn't have to.
Exactly.
It's helping him build his personal brand. And I feel like people get a better understanding of the kind of person he is from his TikTok content than if he were just on there, only presenting his music.
Yeah, totally. And that's funny. That's exactly what he said too, where it's like, if he only pushed his music, he would have like 10 followers, like that's what he was saying. It's just like, so funny when you say it like that, because it's like, he's making engaging content that make people like him just for like who he is, not necessarily for just like the music he's making, but they're just like for that character that he kind of plays.
Yeah, they get to know him.
They get to know him because it's like, it's funny because like, although it's like a TikTok thing, it's like, that's just kind of like Jack's personality in a way, like he just like, is a funny dude. So he's just like, these videos are just like, him just having fun, you know? So it's cool. It's
Yeah.
like, it's genuine too. So
Well, and he's so multifaceted as an artist, just like as an aside. Like he has a solo project that he's getting ready to release, and it's really deep and it's very personal, and it's completely different from the rock and roll, glam side that Viper Club's project projects. And it's completely different from the comedy side that's projected on TikTok. So it's really, I think he's been able to kind of gravitate to the platforms that help him express himself as an artist more completely than maybe some other people that I work with. But authenticity is key.
for sure.
Some musicians are not content creators, nor do they want to be, but he seems to be a little bit more at home and comfortable in that space.
Absolutely. And, we're talking about Jackson Lee, and this is someone that you have a long-standing friendship and relationship with, because you started managing Sunday at Noon when they were boys. Yeah, Nate was 16, Jack was like 18. This was a while ago. How, because that's like the longest standing band that you've worked with from the beginning, like all the way through without any breaks, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think they were slightly ahead of This Modern because I think I had signed Westland, and then a few months into that, I signed Sunday at Noon.
Yeah.
And I remember I signed them, and like 3 weeks later, Jack graduated from high school, and I was at his graduation.
So cool.
Yeah. Now he'll be turning 26 next month.
That's so
And he's releasing
wild.
his solo project. So
Yeah, and you've done so much work with them. I mean, you've gone on multiple tours with them, and you've obviously booked you've so many shows for Sunday at Noon, Viper Club, DS1, Jackson Lee.
Yeah.
It's just like so many things that you're involved with that team. But it's cool for you to be involved all the way through, and it's just like almost like you are like a part of that team of like the engine that is Viper Club. Like you are like a big part of that engine, and you've kind of like helped them grow into the men that they are today, which is crazy that like you brought them when they were just tiny boys. And now they are just spreading their wings and flying.
Well, it's always, I guess that's what helps keep things exciting though, is they were growing up. They did have a lot of diverse interests. They had a lot of different musical pursuits that they wanted to do. And so it's been like blessing that they wanted me to be on the ride. Jack will always say, hey, I have an idea.
Yeah.
I just get those late night texts. I've got an idea. And, I'm always like, oh, what now? But I'm always like so excited to hear what they have to say, because they're just truly very artistic and very creative and just really humble and amazing people that I just can't imagine not being a part of whatever they're doing. Like, I'm sure there'll become a time when it's not the right fit for something or another, but so far we haven't found that point yet. So
yeah, no, 100%.
I'm grateful for that.
You're right. And it's the authenticity comes through like 100% in their music, and just when they talk to you, when they're just around, like their energy is just like, they are real, so it's cool to be able to like not only have that energy, but then also be really good at music. So,
it helps to be a good person first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now I guess I do want to roll into like the teammate Marcus era.
Sure.
Because that's kind of like I guess the next chronological, because teammate Marcus, you mentioned that it was like your first rap artists.
Oh yeah.
And that's so it's funny because I remember this very vividly, because we had it was kind of shortly after we had transitioned from being Without Feeling Weird. We were like trying to be like the what was it, South of Jerome? Remember when they tried to do that South of Jerome project?
Yeah.
And then we switched into Without Feeling Weird. That was like short-lived for a few months. And then it was like right when we switched over to like Teammate Marcus as a band, we're like, okay, let's try to like see if Amy will like manage us. And I remember it like being a conversation, like we were like, we should do this. And it was like, another thing that you said, like saying yes to opportunities and stuff like that. That was kind of one of those things where it's just like, we have like an opportunity to, ask, like, see if that's something that she's willing to do, and like try to really get it going. So we're like, let's just dive in and like, just what's the worst that could happen? So I always felt like that was really cool of you to like take that risk where you didn't really know the rap world, but you were like, I'm willing to like work with you guys and like try to book some shows and try to get something going, even though we were still so like early on in that.
Yeah, and I did have an affinity for rap music.
Yes, of course.
Of course. But I definitely didn't have any networking like readily available to me in that regard. So it was very much like, I know the basic steps of booking a show. Like I got that, no worries. So now the challenge becomes, who do I need to be able to put them in front of? Right. Who do they need, who would they play well with? Who's coming to the city? Who, how can we get the ball moving? And we got like pretty lucky right off the bat. I mean, we got some good shows right off the bat. And I felt like that gave us a little bit of momentum. But I think the challenge, if you remember, was always like, you guys played full band. And when we were wanting to book some of the hip hop and rap shows, it was very much like, no, we just want a DJ and a rapper. Yep. Because the changeover is easier and we don't know how to accommodate the backline for full band. And it just came with its own logistical issues that made it a little bit more difficult to get on some of the rap and hip hop artists that we really wanted to get involved with. Mm-hmm. But, we got a couple of really great shows and, and then you guys kind of transitioned a little bit to a little bit more of the rock with the hip hop, and the rap was more of a flavor to the rock music. And I knew how to do that a little bit better. Yeah. From the get-go. So I think that helped. For sure. And I'm so glad you said
that, because it's like something I talked about with Timo, and it was like kind of like a funny thing, but it's like, it's sad to like at the time it was like really frustrating. But like, it's kind of funny to think about now. But it's just like, we were too rap for the rock crowd and we were too rock for the rap crowd. Yes. And it was like such a bad balance, because it was just like, we wanted to like give these people at these rap shows a crazy show. So we had high production value. We had lights, we had drums, we had bass, guitar, everything automated, back samples and everything like that. And then it's just like, no, you can't play this show, which is so funny. It's just like that rap community just trying to like keep us down. But I remember that being like a thing with, there was a show that it went all the way. We talked about this with Tim on the pod as well, where we were loading the van.
Oh yeah, a couple hours before we had to load in.
You're like, hey, they
just pulled the plug.
Like,
yeah.
What do you mean? We sold like
and
50 tickets.
And that was so heartbreaking, because I remember we had that back and forth, because in the advancing process, we were always very clear, like, here's our setup, here's our tech writer, this is what we do. And I was very forthcoming with like, this does present some challenges. Are you sure this is what you want?
Yeah. And double checking
that we're going to be able to accommodate this kind of thing within the flow of the show. And yeah, that one was heartbreaking, because it was literally like an hour and a half before we had to load in. And they're like, yeah, we just don't think we can do this.
I'm like, what do you mean?
Okay. All right. Well,
like, yeah.
But in the reverse, now we've learned to adapt. And I feel like that was like a really good lesson for us in the beginning, that, we over prepared, because you never know what's going to happen. Some days they call and say, hey, we don't want you to, we're not going to be able to have you on this show. And then we just had the reverse happen, which was really cool with Loveless.
Yeah, right.
On Father's Day. And some groundwork and some preparation had gone into that. Like they had worked on the song that he had featured on with Futuristic. And I had like met Julian on Clubhouse during the pandemic and had messaged and then reached out to his team when I saw they were coming originally. Hey, can we get on the show? And at the time they weren't really sure what they were doing with support. And all of those things were kind of like these little steps that were in place. And then we got the call, hey, there was an emergency with one of the openers, like, can you guys play this in like 5 hours? Yeah. And it wasn't even a hesitation. It was like, yes, we can.
Yep.
Because we'd learned to be adaptable and to be prepared for anything. So that was kind of cool that it came full circle and we were able to say yes to an opportunity instead of having to say, sorry, guys, we're not going to do this one this time.
For sure. And it's cool because like they still hold that high production value standard. And that's like something that has, since those early days, that's been like the standard. It's just like, if we're going to do the show, we're going to like.
And that's something they don't compromise on.
Exactly.
They're in the studio writing and rehearsing 5-6 days a week.
Exactly.
To be prepared for anything, and they've been able to really capitalize on some good opportunities because of that fact. And I think that was because we used to have to work so hard to prove that, hey, this is going to really add value to your show. Like, let us play, look what we can do. And they never compromised on that. So
Exactly. And it's almost like the idea of like staying ready so you don't have to get ready.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's just like when that opportunity comes, it's like, yeah, we're polished. Like, man, we just had this like rehearsal last night. Like, we played a show last week. Like, we're good. Like, let's go.
Well, and I'm surprised. Like, I know you've probably heard it 1,000 times, but it's always kind of been like a management philosophy of mine. And like everybody I work with would probably say the exact same thing. Like Amy always tells us, be prepared, learn your instrument, get your stage show ready, get your tour rig, like be prepared for anything.
Yeah.
Be in the room, say yes. Say yes to anything, you know, and unless it's just not going to be authentic or it's not going to be like in your best interest, say yes. Even when you're scared, say yes. And be humble, be kind, be in the room and be kind, because you just never know what kind of opportunities will manifest themselves. And I feel like every one of you guys and everyone on my roster kind of embodies that. And so it's been easier for me to help get things moving because I know I have that.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
100%
I have that support.
does. It definitely does. And it's almost like it's easier for you because like we're out here, like we have that mindset. So it's just like we all like it's collectively working towards the same goal. And it's like saying yes and being open to opportunities and like not necessarily shutting things down immediately without even exploring it. And like, yeah, and that's something that I feel like with your business, it's like that. I feel like that was so foundational to you scaling the business and finding new opportunities is like being open and saying yes and growing and like being able to like parlay opportunities into new ones. And it's like you really need to have that drive and that kind of like mindset to be able to build things up the way, especially as fast as like things kind of happened. Like I feel like you just recently came off a tour in Japan. Like you're traveling around the world now. Like so it's pretty crazy. Like in I guess like a relatively short time.
Yeah, I'd
like
worked with that band less than a year.
That's
crazy. So in less than a year, when I started working with them, in less than a year, you know, they got to put out an EP. They were on local television, local radio. They got to play and open for Weathers at Tempe Marketplace to like 1,500 people. And then we turned around and went to Japan, and that band has seen a lot of growth. But I credit those early formative years with like This Modern and Sunday at Noon, now Viper Club, in helping me develop kind of a more streamlined approach to get people where they want to be. And I'm a little bit more conscious too now of meeting artists where they are in their journey.
Yeah.
So that the transition and the progress happens a little bit more seamlessly. So.
Okay. So almost like when you say that, almost like not necessarily saying like you should be doing this, and this when they're at like this level type of deal, when they're not ready for this, and this.
Right.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So like with Popsicle Stick Airport, you know, the Japan thing was like kind of a fluke. I'm like, there's a festival and, you know, I'm going to apply for you guys. And I always know, I should know better. Whenever I get tickets to a really good show that I want to go see, never fails. One of my bands is going to get a primo opportunity and I'm going to have to cancel, give my tickets away, sell my tickets. And so it was funny because, I had an artist, and he was working on a song, like PSA, and Reese was working on the song Tokyo. And I love that. Haha, there's this festival. We should just apply and see what happens. And I had bought my tickets to the 1975.
Of course. And
the next day, he calls me, he said, hey, I'm going to go see 1975 at Madison Square Garden. You know, have you heard anything about that festival? I'm like, no, you should be fine. I got my tickets for Phoenix. We'll be fine. Haven't heard anything. And then, yeah, the very next day, hey guys, you got in. And I was like, okay, so find somebody for my tickets and start booking flights. But yeah, but going back to like meeting the artists where they are in their journey, like they were very young. They had recently released a lot of really good music that I am personally a fan of over the pandemic. And so it was very much about like, okay, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to take this on as a business? Do you want to be thinking commercially? Do you want to stay DIY, you know, or just having fun playing music with your friends? Like let me know what you need and where you are. And it was very much like, we want to do this. You know, we're young, but we want to do this. We want to be able to tour. Reese has always kind of had an interest in Japan. That's the song Tokyo.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, well, if you're interested in Japan, like, let's make a go of it. Let's set a plan. Let's set some goals. Let's start getting out there. Let's see what it takes. And I reached out to a manager friend of mine that lives there and started picking her brain about, like, okay, how do I develop an artist that's prepared to be successful in Japan? Because every world market is completely different.
Dang, it's cool. You had a connection out there. That's part of it.
She was just somebody I'd met in a Facebook group or Clubhouse or something.
That's
and
so cool.
You know, it's always like trying to bring value to other people so that they're willing to help you if you need to ask those questions.
Yeah, and you know, and that's kind of a topic that I had on the notes about how, like, your connection making is really important in the music industry. And when you make connections from, like, a genuine place, and, like, you're just a nice person, and you, like, touch people, and, like, you make an impact on them just by being who you are, that is, like, such a powerful, like, superpower. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like people that, like, try to, like, step on other people and, like, you know, push them down to, like, push themselves higher, that type of deal. Like, they don't necessarily, like, have longevity because I mean, people talk, and, you know, and it's like, and it's, even if people don't talk, people don't work with people that they don't like. So it's like, if they don't like you as a person, they're not gonna reach out to you. They're not gonna give you opportunities. They're not gonna be as receptive to when you reach out to them, especially if they've only met you a couple times and immediately had that, like, I don't
by
like
extension,
this guy.
that translates to your artists too.
So
you have to be even more mindful, I think, as a representative of an artist, that how you present yourself and how you conduct yourself and interact with people directly affects them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's something definitely to be mindful of. And early on, I had, again, going back to the mentor thing, I had a workshop with an agent. And at the time, he was a pretty big agent at UTA, one of the top talent agencies.
Yeah.
And he just was doing a workshop on negotiating. And I thought, you know what, I want to just kind of learn negotiating. So sat into that, and he was really kind about, like, hey, if anybody has questions, if you need any, follow up to this, like, email me. And don't give me your email and tell me email me because I will. You're getting an email at some point. It might not be now. It might be 3 years from now, but you're getting an email. And so I had a show coming up, and I was not completely clear on how to negotiate the back end of a deal. And so I reached out to him and just said, I don't know if you even remember me, but, and we got into a conversation, and he said, it's really important for you to develop your style of how you're going to negotiate on behalf of your artist. And you seem like a really nice person. Like, don't let people make you feel bad about leaning into being the band mom or the soccer mom or that is your strength, is to be nurturing and to, be a mama bear on behalf of your artists. Like, you're never going to be a shark. You're never going to be cutthroat. Sorry, lady, you're just not. You don't have that personality, nor do you want to be necessarily. Right. So I've tried to embrace that and tried to just been like, no, my personality is, I truly care about my artists. I want to see them excel. I want the people that they're performing for to receive a benefit from their performance, whether that means the audience has a better time or we're able to work within a budget. But just trying to make it a win-win for everybody as much as humanly possible. Not always possible, but as much as humanly possible. And just respecting people's perspective throughout the process has really helped me, I guess, seem like I'm a nice person.
Yeah, for sure. And it's helped you grow in the industry too. And it's like, it speaks so much about your character that's how you approach it. And it's like, you've never changed. And it's like, it's been the same always. You've never had that, like, cutthroatness about you. Like, and even when it comes down to making tough decisions, you do them, but you do them from, like, a place of, like, love and, like, it's like sincerity. And it's like, it's always very authentic. And I feel like that's something like, that's the reason why, you came up on all these other conversations, because, like, you've directly impacted all these guys' lives. And it's like, you've grown, you've helped them grow as people and as artists.
Oh, wow. You're going to make me puddle up.
I mean, But I'm serious. Like,
Well, that means a lot to me. That honestly means a lot to me because everybody in this industry is a human being first and foremost. You're a human being. People go through all kinds of struggles to make their art. Support at home, not support at home. Setting really high expectations of themselves, not setting high enough expectations. Like there's so many things that impact an artist on a personal level that is translated into their art that you just never want to be the person that adds to somebody's stress or their bad day. Yeah. And sometimes you have to deliver really bad news. Like, hey, we're not playing the show in an hour.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But I think you're right. If you approach that with authenticity and respect and humility and say, but what can we take away from this? What can we learn from this? Like not every opportunity is for everybody. And you have to deliver some bad news. I feel like it still stings, but it's received a little better.
It's more than just, it goes further past than just like, oh, that's my manager. It's like, that's my manager. That's like my friend. We've hung out. Like, that's my mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I've heard at first, I'm not going to lie. At first it used to bother me a little bit. Like, I want to be taken seriously in this profession. I want to be like this professional, don't cross boundaries, don't cross lines, like black and white, business is business. But I just realized that's not who I am. And I would never be happy functioning in that way. And I'm sure there are bands that would prefer not to work with someone who takes on it to like a more personal level. They want that business relationship. They want the cut and dry, and that's okay. But the artists that I gravitate to are ones that know they can call me in the middle of the night and it could have nothing to do with nothing to do with the band. It could be anything at all. And they can just say like, look, I'm struggling with this, or I've got this and even good news. Like, hey, I'm entering this phase in a personal relationship and I want to share that. And that's the biggest compliment. That's the biggest compliment in the world to me, because I truly, genuinely care about the people that I work with. And part of keeping my circle of management clients small is so that I can adequately provide that level of support. I don't want to ever have a roster of 25 bands and not know somebody's mom's name.
Right, totally.
or their pets' names. Or I always want to have that level of connectivity, because artists are not commodities. I mean, they have to be in our society. They're you want to strive for some kind of commercial success. You want to be able to make a living doing this so you can continue to do it. But beyond that, it has to be a fruitful way to make a living. It has to be a fruitful career. You have to be mindful of mental health. And so that's a huge compliment to me now when they say I'm the band mom. I don't take that personally anymore, because it means that, beyond business, they value our relationship as human beings. And so that's really important to me now.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you embody that and don't like run away from that, because I feel like that's like one of your strengths. And it's like that guy told you, from the guy that told you to email him, like I'm so glad that like that conversation came to you from like someone from UTA at that level, where it's just like, yeah, you're right. Like, why should I like try to be someone I'm not? Let me just double down on my personality and my character. And it's going to take you further, not only with the artists that you manage, but then people that you work with within the industry. It's like someone I wanted to bring up to kind of talk about your relationship was Indian.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So Indian is someone that you've had a relationship for a pretty long time with. And I kind of want to talk about like, how did that relationship start? Was that just something like that started when you were in Nevada, or did you meet him when you were out in Arizona?
I met him when I was out in Arizona, and it was kind of funny because, Indian and Spags, and you've met the crew behind Mesa Music Festival. And so it initially started with Mesa Music Festival. I reached out and I was like, hey, I've got these artists. I want to get them on your festival. I wasn't really sure how the submission process worked, but I'm always one to try to add value or volunteer some labor to grease the wheels if that's what it takes.
I love it.
So it was very much hey, I have this festival experience. I'm more than happy to come and volunteer, help with whatever you got. Could you listen to my artists, and you think you can, get them a spot, get them a good spot? Right. And they didn't answer the first 2 emails I sent. So the first day that they were in town getting ready for the festival, I actually knew somebody who knew where they were. And so I went and I just introduced myself and said, hey, look, I sent a couple emails, but here I am again. I have these artists and I really want to get them on the fest. And, I will work for you. I will, if you need help organizing volunteers, I will do that for you. If you need, anything you need, tell me. And so, the first year I volunteered and I had a couple bands play and they did get some good spots. Not going to lie, they came through and that kind of just cemented it. And now, I'm helping Indian with the programming of the festival. And so I'm able to look out for my guys, and it is still a lot of work, but it's definitely developed into a really great relationship.
That's so cool. I mean, it's like, that's just like goes back to like that building of those relationships and like having those genuine connections where it's like you met him and he probably immediately when he met you was just like, okay, this girl,
Well, I'm sure he said free labor.
Yeah.
as would anybody, as would anybody. Hey, this person's saying she's going to help me do stuff and she's actually showing up. So cool. Maybe I'll listen to her bands. Yeah. But no, we have a really good relationship now. And I work on a lot of projects with him and
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, cause you guys, it's like, that was 5 years ago, 6 years.
2015.
Dang.
Yeah, 2015. It was the first year.
A long time. That was Mesa Music Festival's first
year. It rained on Sunday. So at the time, it was on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It rained on Sunday. So I'm literally out in front of like where Jared's Coffee is now, and they had like pop-up stages. I'm out there with like brooms shoving like water off, drying the stages so the bands could like play in between. And that was such great memories because now, like full circle, this last year, this Modern got to open for Everclear on the biggest stage that they've played, biggest crowd I think they've played. There's also some cool filming elements that we can't really get into just yet, but there's some opportunities are evolving from that, from them. And it just was like, seems like it was yesterday. I'm out there, with a push broom trying to get water off a stage so that one of the bands could play a good slot.
Yeah, it's so cool, like to now be in a position where you're programming the festival, and it's like you had that like, man, I was in the trenches. I was just, you should have seen me. Hey, Martians, real quick, I appreciate you taking the time to listen or watch wherever you are in the world. Over the last few months, the Martian family has grown so much. I could not be more thankful for all of my guests and every single one of you who continue to tune in every single week. Subscribers, ratings, likes, and comments all help us grow here on Mars. And it would mean the world. If you haven't already, please go to onmarspod.com/subscribe to subscribe on YouTube. Like and leave a comment, rate us on Spotify. All this good stuff helps keep the engine running to inspire Martians all over the world. P.S. Follow us on Instagram @onmarspod. Okay, let's get back to it.
The third year of the festival was the year that teammate Markus was kind of retired. I remember getting that call like 2 days before the festival. Hey, Amy, what do you feel about this? How do you think about maybe us putting teammate Markus to bed and starting this, going public with a new thing? And I'm like, at first I'm like, I'm going to be really sad because I love this project. However, I think it's a great idea. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's put it to bed on Friday night and start the new thing on Saturday and just roll with it. Like if we're gonna do it, let's go big or go home.
Yeah, for sure. No, that was a long time coming. That transition, like months.
And again, that's one of those phone calls that like I'm sure he was a little nervous to make that call, but at the end of the day, like what's gonna make you guys happy? What direction do you want to go? Where are you in your journey? You no longer feel fully invested in this, so let's go put everything we've got into what you want to do.
For sure. And I mean, it ultimately ended up being the best move, really.
Oh yeah.
So it's like everything happens for a reason. It's just like that ended up playing into them paying for 3,500 people.
The year before COVID, they got to open for Hoobastank.
Yeah,
and it was similar. It was like maybe 3,000 people, maybe a little bit smaller. And I thought, oh, for sure, as far as Mesa opportunities go, it's never going to get better than this. And then, being able to come out this last year and do that was pretty amazing. And then to go from there, I had to high five them, tell them, great job. You guys are amazing. Love y'all. I got to get over to the Nile because Popsicle Stick Airport's about to play to 800 people at the Nile. So I got to go.
Wow.
So,
dang.
It's just... it's awesome to see that I have some bands that now I consider like veterans
Yeah.
And we've worked together so long. There's just that shorthand there. But then to still have kind of the excitement of bringing up some up and coming artists as well.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's like you're tapped in multiple like levels too, where it's just like you're playing like smaller shows, but then you're also paying 3,500 like headline type like shows. That's it's so cool. It's like you've grown, you've I feel like you've grown so much in this time, and it's like it's so cool to see that and be almost like a part of it in a way. To see it from like the inside in a way too, like be a part of like the inside crew, the circle, and just like see all these things like, oh man, I'm so proud.
Oh my gosh,
like,
yes. I was actually a little nervous about doing this because I thought he's going to make me cry. Like for sure I'm going to cry because I really do like stand in the crowd, and I will like, the guys know better. Don't shout me out. Please don't shout me out at shows anymore, because I will puddle up, because I literally am so proud of the things that they're doing and of the progress that they've all made. And just knowing how hard they all work to get to where they are in their journey at the moment.
Yeah.
It's really emotional for me, to be
for
honest.
Sure. I mean, but that kind of plays into what we were saying before, the attachment, because that's just the type of person you are. That's the character you are, like that's the character you have rather. So it's like, that's the type of artist manager you are, you
like just appreciate,
have passion. And,
I appreciate how hard they work to get the things that they're getting.
Yeah, for sure. And they love having these experiences, and it's like super gratifying for them to like have these experiences after working so hard. But it's almost like it's probably like secondhand, like you're feeling it for like that excitement through them as well for them. It's like being able to like set these plays up, watch them crush it, watch them get excited, and it's just like, oh man, that like makes
and it's like a slingshot effect, because like I'll be able to get them a certain, like a certain show or a festival or a tour opportunity, and then they just go in and they crush it and exceed all my expectations, and that just fuels the next thing I'm looking for them. Right. And it's just this constant like slingshot effect. Like I set it up, you knock it down, we'll set it up. What's next? Yeah. What's next? And like I've had some really like surreal moments where I'm like, I am living vicariously through the artist a little bit. Never had any musical talent to speak of, but I love music so much, and I love the effect that music has on people. And I know that I can't really reach that from a creator's perspective.
Right.
So being able to live vicariously a little bit through the artist is really exciting to me. Like getting to go to Japan and visit Japan and experience that with Jack and with Popsicle Stick Airport was amazing, because I wouldn't necessarily take the time to go vacation in Japan because of all the things I have going on right now. But the fact that I got to go and experience it with them and see them perform, and again, exceed all my expectations, like I can't ask for a better experience than that.
Absolutely. I mean, in that sense, you're kind of like living the dream, where it's just like you get to not only like have these experiences, but you're also like working at the same time. It's just like you're utilizing like your work to be able to travel, and like now you're seeing things from this thing that you had so much passion for, which is so cool. I mean, we kind of touched on that earlier, where it's just like it's bringing you to all these places, it's getting you into these festivals like South by Southwest. You had an artist like getting to South by Southwest, like that's a huge deal. Like
that was a big achievement. I usually don't like talk up those types of opportunities when they come along. But yeah, having our first official showcase last year, because I'd tried for years to get even an artist accepted into the official festival. Every year we'd apply, and we got close a few times, but never really ended up happening. So then last year, to be able to get in 3 artists as official artists and get our own official showcase for 59X Records was just like incredible. It was amazing.
For sure.
I'm not even going to lie. Like that was one of those surreal moments where I'm like, are we really here doing this right now? This is so cool.
Exactly.
And then it's like, okay, as soon as it was over, are we doing this again next year? How do we grow this? How do we make this bigger?
Yeah, I love that.
It's like this insatiable, like, okay, this was the milestone and we met it and it was really cool for a minute, but like, what's next?
Yeah. And I love that. And it's almost like the people that have that type of mindset, like never stop growing. Where like they set like the goal and then they like get to that goal and they're like, huh, nice. Okay, cool. Well then what about
How do we do that?
Yeah.
That looks cool too. Yeah.
It's almost like the view changes a little bit. Cause it's like, I remember like before that, like South by Southwest happened, it's like trying to get into like stages around South by Southwest and just kind of be in the area. But now it's like to be able to be directly in that thing, and like, that's only sets you up to do more with them later. And it's just like, especially because they all went in and crushed it, you know, I'm sure. So it's just like, it's so cool. And it's just like, that's just to be the beginning still in like that world of like festivals on that level.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like, I feel like that's still, you know, scratching the surface, which is so cool. But it's like just bringing you to all these places, all these opportunities that like you would have never had because you aren't an artist yourself. Right. It's just like, it's so cool to be able to like be almost living like this experience with them and like be able to like be like, it's so cool.
It's definitely a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Like they have to perform at a certain level and want to perform at a certain level and be willing to make certain sacrifices to be at a certain level before I'm able to even make headway or get them the opportunities that they want. So like you said, when we first started talking about South by a couple of years ago, it was like, okay, we're going to apply. Well, we didn't get in. What do we do now? Well, let's go ahead and get some of the unofficial showcases. Let's be there. Let's say yes to the opportunity. Let's go. Let's still try to meet people, network, do what we can do. We did go unofficially a couple of times with some bands. And then just be able to say, oh, no, we're official. And not only are the artists official, like the label showcase is official. And we got to bring some people on that I still work with. And I really like, they're doing great things. Like Crooked Kings was our headliner, and they're like doing that almost, you know, a close to sold out national tour now. And Carver Commodore came clear from Alabama and played the showcase for us. And then they came out and played Mesa Music Fest. And to be, I guess, at that level and be meeting other artists and other creatives at that level and other industry professionals at that level is really exciting for me. Yeah. I mean, to be able to work and meet your peers, and then as a group, you're kind of moving forward together. It's always exciting. Yeah,
it's like validating. Like you're supposed to be in these rooms because you guys are at that level, and that's like the that self-confidence as a collective, you know, where it's just like the artist has the confidence because they're in South by Southwest. You have the confidence because you got your band in the South by Southwest. Like that's definitely like a milestone achievement as far as like showing your progression as like a unit, I guess. So this is something that we didn't really talk about too much, but we've mentioned the name a little bit, 59X Records.
Sure.
So that's an opportunity that you met the owner of this label in COVID. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So during COVID, I struggled. I'm not even gonna lie. I was struggled because I had spent so much time investing in these opportunities that were going to happen. Like, I mean, we were on tour with This Modern and Neon Dreams and literally had to call it and come home so that Neon Dreams could get back to Canada before the country closed. Yeah, like, for sure. So we had all these plans, these best laid plans and all this progress. And all of a sudden it came to a screeching halt. And it's like, what do you do when 90% of your career is built on events and the music industry and everything shuts down? So first thing you do is like find a way to make money, find that day job again and get that going. And then the second thing is like, how do we stay relevant? How do we best prepare? Because this too will pass. So how do we make sure that we're ready to take advantage of it when it does? And try to regain our momentum. So it was a lot of like reaching out to people. And I got just a cold email from 59X Records and said, you know, I see what you've been doing with some of the bands that you're managing. And I don't know if there's like a way to work together on some of this stuff. And so I originally had pitched him a couple bands and I found him that way. And for whatever reason, the relationship between the band and Peter and the record label, you know, it just wasn't a great fit and everybody parted amicably, and I still work with both of them. And that just kind of was a hiccup for us. But he's like, you know, having worked with you, what do you think about coming onto the label? And I was really nervous about it. I was a little scared about it. I think initially I said, I don't think I want to do that because I had that misconception that labels were evil, that they were out to get artists. Totally. And coming from a place of being an artist artist advocates and developing artists to be their own business people and to take care of themselves and be careful of labels and some of the more predatory acts by some labels, I was kind of a little nervous, to be honest. But having met Peter and getting to know his character and seeing how artist centric it was and that he preferred to work with developing bands and put the time and energy into development, there was more crossover in our philosophies than I was prepared for. And so I gave it a shot. The first year or so, I still managed bands, but then I kind of tried to help do project management for some of the label bands. And I realized I'm not very good at being the person watching the bottom line and the numbers. Like to a degree, you have to do that as a manager too. Right. But I wanted to be the one that was cheering because they got 1,000 streams on day one, not disappointed that they only got 1,000 streams on day one. And I think it's just a little bit different mentality that the business dictates, that you have to be more on top of those kinds of things. And so so he said, okay, well, I like you, you like me, we like our philosophy. How do we make this work? So year 2, we decided, hey, how about if I just stick to managing, kind of oversee the management clients. You take care of the label clients, because he was recording a lot of them, and a lot of them are from the East Coast, the Southeast, and he knew a lot of them. So he had very similar relationships to the bands that were on the label side already as I did to the management clients. And we're just like, why don't we just kind of have that degree of separation, but still come together and utilize each other's different areas of expertise, different skill sets, different resources to help in both sides. So that's kind of where we landed. And that's where we are, what we're doing now. You know, we're doing events together. So he has a festival in August that's a more punk and rock fest. I had one this year that was a little bit rock and indie pop, indie rock. So we come together and we do things like that together. Like he's always a phone call away. If I need to order a product, if I need to get, you know, if I need to use him as a sounding board for like, are we ready for vinyl? Who can we get to distribute this? He calls me and says, hey, Amy, I got a band that needs to come through Phoenix. They need a show. Can you help me out? So we just kind of combined our efforts, and that relationship was more fruitful than the initial one we started with, for sure.
Yeah, it's cool that you were able to, even though the record label signing deals with 59X didn't necessarily work out with the bands, that you were still able to keep that kosher relationship with him, so that way you can continue on working with 59X yourself and still manage the bands. So it's like you kind of got to like have your cake and eat it too, in that sense, where it's like you could still work with the people that you love to do, still do the things that you love to do, but then also work with him to a certain degree and do what you do best at that company as well, where it's almost like you're filling in his gaps as well.
Yeah, we definitely are very complimentary towards each other that way. And like he makes me think about things in a different way. You know, I'm very, let's act now. Let's do it. Let's jump in. Let's try something. If it doesn't work, then we know, then we've learned. And he's more cautious. He's like, well, let's really look at the risk factors and it's a good thing, because between the two of us, I kind of get him to act a little quicker sometimes, and he gets me to slow down and like look at big picture sometimes. So it's pretty complimentary in the way that we're able to work with each other.
It's like yin and yang, as they say.
Yeah, and it was very unexpected, but it's really nice to have like a tribe.
For sure. I mean, it's been 3 years now too. It's like you guys have definitely built up like a relationship in that time. It's like all the things that you guys have done. So it's so cool. I mean, growing now, like, do you guys have anything that you're working on now? I mean, you guys just did your 59X Fest, the first annual, just recently, and you said you sold that out, and it's amazing. And so
it was kind of cool because I went with Viper Club back to Atlanta this year, and they performed at the 59X Fest Atlanta, which was at a venue called the Earl, and I mean, it did really well too. And there was quite a few of the label bands that are on it, and then some, you know, a few touring bands. And I got to meet some of the bands that are on the label that I've never met in person before.
Oh, that's so sweet. It's like, I've known of you for 3 years.
We signed a band called Star Juice from Buffalo, New York, and they're really really cool people. And I'd never seen them had never seen them perform live.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to kind of meet Atlanta and get to see them. And
Full circle.
there were some folks that have come out here and played. So I've seen them perform here, but didn't really see them in the home element. And then the Carolyn, of course, like they were on South by Southwest and I've worked with them a little bit more closely. So it was really cool to hang out with them again. I went down when they played Fest last year and got to hang out and help them out. So it was just cool. It's like kind of a homecoming a little bit to go back there. And seeing Viper Club be able to play for the first time was really cool in Atlanta. Yeah. So we did that at the beginning of the month. And then, I had to hurry home and get ready for ours because this was the first time we'd ever done one in Phoenix. Right. And so we had 10 bands at the Rebel Lounge over the course of a day. We had like some vendors. We had it was a really good time. And we were very fortunate to sell it out year one. So of course that mentality kicks in. What are we doing next year? Who are we having on next year? Exactly. How do we grow this? How do we make this bigger?
For sure.
Create more opportunities for more artists.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like that kind of what we were saying off air. It's like you need to have that like proof of concept to show yourself like we can do this, where it's like it's exciting after you do it, because then it's just like, now I just can't wait to get to the next year. Like it was kind of nerve wracking, like getting this one going, but now I'm just like ready to run the next one.
You know? Yeah. And I'm looking at Peter going like, I think I can do one out here, but he's been doing it and he knows what he's capable of. And he kind of knows the incremental growth that he wanted to see because they've been doing them. Yeah. And so for me to say, okay, well, I think we could do one here, but I have no idea if we're going to throw this big party and no one's going to show up. It's always a little scary. For sure. But we were very, very grateful to have the support of the musical community, the artists. Mo was talking about it on Alt-AZ for us. Yeah. Alex Gallagher, who's with Times New Media, did some write-ups for us. Like some of those connections that we've made for other shows really stepped up. And I think that helped make it a really fruitful first event.
For sure. Was Peter here for that as well?
Unfortunately, he just had his first. Well, fortunately, he had his first child this year. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it. But he's looking forward to trying to come out next year for sure.
Yeah, for him, it was probably cool to see that. Like, damn, she really went out there and did it.
Yeah,
like...
I don't know how he felt because I immediately, like, it was probably midnight our time when I found out it sold out. Yeah. So it's like 3 a.m. his time, and I'm like, I know it's late, but
exciting news.
There's been developments. We sold it out.
There's been developments.
So I'm sure he was like, either he didn't see it till the next day or he probably rolled over and opened one eye and was like, yeah, cool, thanks. I'll talk to you in like 5 hours.
Looks at it like, all right. That's cool though. I mean, it's like you guys are building this together. So for him to kind of like see you killing it on your side of the country, while he's running his side, it's just like, it's cool. It's like it almost like makes it seem like, okay, this is like she's actually, pulling weight, she's doing things out here, she's moving the needle, making waves in her own way. It's like without me, straight up.
I mean, it was kind of like our coming out party here because we didn't really, I put 59X on stuff, and so there's probably a little bit of name recognition, but it was kind of the first thing that we did that had some publicity behind it and had, several, more than just the artists I managed kind of invested in it. And so it was kind of our coming out party, I feel like. And, he's there and he's doing the things that he's good at. He's, recording some bands, saving them on recording costs. He's doing the royalty statements, which I don't wish on anybody. That is not my strong suit. I'm like, and he's always like, well, you're out in the community, you're going to shows, you're booking things. And I'm like, yeah, I'd much rather be that than doing royalty statements. Yeah. So I'm perfectly content that he likes to do that. Yeah. And he's really good at that, and I don't have to.
The yin and yang. Yes. No, that's it.
Yes. Works out.
We've known each other for so long, but like we rarely get to like have one-on-ones ever. It's like we're always like with other people, and like we're like having if we do have conversations, it's only for like a few minutes at a time,
Yeah, definitely more in passing now than when we were working on the same project.
Exactly. So. Yeah. So I take these opportunities, I cherish these opportunities.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you having me on, because this is definitely not something that's in like my comfort zone. But I was like, for Harry, I got to do it.
It means the world. It really means the world to me, for real. And it's like, it's cool for people to see these types of people, these stories from people like yourself, where it's like, you wouldn't be the one to put it out there.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely
not. Let's give you the platform to show like that there's people like you like out here doing these things that are just under the covers just because you don't bring attention to them. But it's like, doesn't mean you're not doing them.
No,
like,
the work's getting done, but I'm perfectly content to let the artists have those moments in the spotlight, and just I like being side stage.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, well, no, it's like sometimes you got to come out and jump in the spotlight for a second here. So
right, or you get drug out by somebody. Yeah,
exactly. There's a couple things that I saw that were upcoming, and I wanted to kind of touch on that. And this is like moving forward. You have the Arizona International Student Film Festival. Is that?
So we put that on the back burner for a little while. That's another project that I'm working on with Indian. The student one just needs a little bit more time to develop. We didn't have as much interest and as many submissions as we would have liked year one. So we're going to just do what you have to do sometimes and take a step back and say it's not ready. It's not fully developed. We need to look at how to build this a little bit before it has a launch. But we do have the Mesa International Film Festival that will be upcoming. And then we've got a singer-songwriter festival that's right around the corner that kind of is a branch off from the Mesa Music Festival. We felt like sometimes the singer-songwriters were a little bit eclipsed by the big production and the bands. Yeah. And so we really wanted to give them another opportunity to highlight the songwriting and the acoustic songs. So that was the first year we did it, was last year. And so it was definitely the first year, getting the hang of it, seeing what works, what doesn't work. And so this will be the second year. So looking forward to growth there.
When is that?
That's in November.
Okay, yep. Cool. This will probably be out in end of October or beginning of November.
Okay, nice.
So that kind of like works out. So that's going to be the Mesa Singer-Songwriter Festival, and that's in downtown Mesa, the same place where
it's very similar setup where there's pop-ups and we put artists inside local business so that, we're getting people to check out local business and emerging artists and bringing those two kind of groups together. So check them out, Mesa Music Festival. When is the next official Mesa Music Festival? April 2024.
Nice.
So applications will open on October 1st.
Okay.
And I'm really excited to see what we come up with this year, because we were able to get Indian. All credit to sponsors for getting sponsors to Indian. He was able to bring on Amazon last year.
Damn.
And so we're looking at some, again, possibilities for growth and some enhanced opportunities for the artist at the 2024 festival. 59X sponsored the Nile Theater upstairs and downstairs. So hopefully we'll be able to return and kind of sponsor again in that capacity. I have a really fun time curating that event and programming. The Indian's the guy who brings in the big legacy acts. I don't have that kind of pull. I can't call the agent and get Everclear on the line, but I'm not there yet. But most of the other like supporting and definitely all the locals I program. So I get to listen to anywhere from, I don't know, last year's maybe 1,300 bands and cull it down to 200.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What is that process like? I mean, do you listen to like 30 seconds?
No, I listen to everybody, because this kind of goes back to the film festival mentality too. Yeah. If an artist is going to put their money and their time and their heart and soul into something, I feel like the least I can do is give it a set of ears, a proper listen. I'll give it a proper listen. It may not be for us. It may not be the right fit for that band at that time or that film at that time, but I always watch everything or listen to everything at least once. So yeah, I listen to at least one song. Sometimes I'll take a deeper dive if I'm really interested in what they're doing, but discovered a lot of really cool bands last year that I still am putting on shows now or putting my bands on tour with, and it has other dividends throughout the year.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's like it's almost like you have to like set time for that, where it's just you probably at it for hours just listening to bands and like yes, no, dang, 100% yes. Yeah. Learn more.
So I'm old school. So this you'll might find this to be kind of a little funny, but I listen to people and I have Post-it notes, color-coded Post-it notes. And it's like I will put the name of the artist on the definitely on the
Nice.
maybe and the maybe not this year, not the right fit for this year kind of list.
Cool.
And so I give everybody the initial listen and I just post-it notes. And
Nice.
then I go and kind of slot the ones that I know are a definite. We hit them up first, see if they can play, if they turn it down or what. Then we kind of go to the middle pile and like, I try to be really diligent in how I curate things to where people can go and listen. And if it's not for them, they can walk down the block, like a block down Main Street and hear something completely different.
Right.
So it's kind of a slotting process by who gets in and then where they are on the stage and where they're placed within the lineup. And we do take into account their availability too. So
For sure. So
it's quite a process.
Yeah, there's a lot of strategy that goes behind booking a festival of that level where there's multiple venues, multiple days, hundreds of artists.
The biggest compliment we got too is last year a lot of people compared it to the beginning stages of South by Southwest. And I was like, that's cool.
Okay.
To be in that company at the level that we're at now after building for a few years, that's a really cool company to be in.
Yeah, that's a great compliment.
So
no, I mean, it's cool because I mean, even in the years that I've seen it, and we played it that year as teammate Marcus. It's like even since then, it's grown so much.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's really really cool. To
and
see
the speakers,
every year.
I'm excited about the speakers.
Oh yeah,
because we have the keynote. We have the keynote speaker that comes in, and we've had some really interesting, industry professionals come in, like Marvin Atkins, and we've had Randy Jackson and Henry Rollins, which was a personal favorite of mine. And there's so many in Chester Bennington. That was a amazing opportunity to have him be a part of it. And so to see the speakers and then to develop the workshops and the mentoring where bands can come in and sign up to be mentored or meet one-on-one with booking agents and publishers and sync agents, A&R reps, to give artists in our community or that travel to our community that kind of access is really, really powerful. And having partaken of those similar opportunities in South by, it's kind of grown a little bit. And if you have to have a certain level of badge and you have to register for times because the demand far exceeds the accessibility of people. So for us to still be able to offer that to emerging artists is really, really a powerful thing.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love to see it, especially like in Mesa, which is like still like a growing community. Like they've been trying to really push that downtown Mesa area for some time now, and I feel like in the last couple of years they're really like pushing it, and there's like businesses coming up there, and there's like a lot more going on there now. So I feel like as it grows, it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and we've built these relationships with the mom and pop businesses all along downtown Main Street who really look forward to that time of year when they can have the artist in and they get other people that may not know about their business or don't frequent their business to come in and see what they're all about and what they're doing, and seeing so many restaurants have popped up in downtown and so many bars, and just where there used to be empty buildings, so we would go in and make pop-up venues. They're just not there anymore because businesses have come in. So it's really cool to see the growth. I think Mesa's really working on trending to become like the next music city, like in Austin. And so it's exciting to see the city growing, the artists growing, and everybody coming together to kind of celebrate it at least one weekend a year.
For sure. And it's like the city is behind it too. Like the mayor shows up to these shows, takes pictures with the artists.
He does. In fact, we always, This Modern always has to get like their annual photo with the mayor.
With the mayor. Yeah, that's exactly the photo I'm talking about. I'll put it right here.
Yes.
No,
it's cool. It's really cool to see how supportive they have been as a community to the artists that are, growing and playing in their own community.
For sure. It's like you need that the city support to be able to build it into the next Austin, the next Nashville. It's like, because it's like if they don't want it, then it's not happening.
Oh yeah. And I got to shout out, like Indian just has more drive and more passion for connecting artists and Mesa than anybody I've ever seen in my life.
And he doesn't even live here.
No, he's from New York, and still he just sees the value in doing that.
I love it.
So having him willing to come and do it every year is just it's awesome that somebody's willing to do that and go to that much effort to see that connections are made. And then of course, like you said, the city. I can't shout out Jesse and enough. Like she and Melissa work for the city of Mesa mayor's office, and they've been champions from like day one.
Yes.
We bump into each other and we'll be so exhausted. We'll just kind of look at each other and shake our heads and be like, we know this is really cool, but we're exhausted. And it's just that kind of like, we've been in it since year one. So we just have that shared like pride in what we're doing, but also like shared understanding, like this is not easy.
Yeah. It's like this growth comes with work. Like this is, for sure. This has been such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to, have this time with me. And even though, you don't really do this, so it just means a lot. To kind of wrap up, I do want to kind of, I guess, bring attention to anything that you have going on. I know 59X Records, you have Viper Club, Popsicle Stick Airport, This Modern. What do you got going on? What do you want to bring attention to?
Yeah, so I have my artist roster. Jackson Lee's getting ready to release his solo project in September, so that will be accessible by the time this airs. Popsicle Stick Airport will have a EP out by the time this airs.
Perfect.
This Modern will have at least a single, probably 3 by the time this airs.
Straight up.
Easy Sleeper, my band from LA is getting ready to put on their own little festival in LA, I think on September 23rd, and then they'll be hitting the road again in October. So keep an eye out for them. 59X is always releasing something. And I think the only other, we've got festivals coming up between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, man, it's just like a steamroll. It's like every month something's going on. I mean, September alone sounds like it's loaded up.
And I will say, I'm really, really excited about one thing that I haven't really talked about a whole lot yet is we're bringing live music to Mill Avenue again.
Oh,
it's been a minute. There's a lot of DJs and people that play that type of music on Mill Ave, but Anoche Cantina is building a stage for me, and I'm getting started to book them. So we're actually kicking off live music at the Oasis at Anoche on Mill Avenue this weekend. So the intent is to have live music on Mill Ave, on the corner of Mill and 6th Ave, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights.
Dang.
So so that's happening now.
Super exciting.
So that's happening now, and it's just getting kind of kicked off. So
that's what's up.
If there's independent artists that want a place to play and are having difficulty getting into the traditional venues, please hit me up.
Absolutely, and this is a great opportunity. This is like right in the heart of ASU. That's like right in that space, like that downtown Tempe. That's like right there. Like that's like right next to like W6, like pretty much like.
Yeah, it's right on the corner, like by Casa and I'm trying to think of what the Dark Star. There's so many like on that corner.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
That's super exciting.
I started working with Deep Stories, and they were putting on the pregame cannabis events there, and it just kind of steamrolled into, well, why don't we do this more often? So
perfect.
And to be honest, I have nothing but love for Rebel Lounge and Valley Bar and Crescent Ballroom and some of the venues that my artists have played and will continue to play. But it is getting more increasingly difficult to get spots or be able to host shows there because of all the live music and touring that's coming back. So this was very much if there's not a seat at the table, you build a damn table.
Exactly.
So we're building a very big table and inviting all of the independent artists to hit us up, and let's get some music going on Mill. Let's do it. No, I love it. You're keeping the spirit alive of indie music, of local music, of just music in general. So everybody, please follow Amy online at Amy_59X. Follow 59X Records. Go check out their artists. This Modern, Viper Club, Jackson Lee, Popsicle Stick Airport, all of these artists, just like everyone that she names. I'll put their handles up here in the video. But no, I really appreciate you taking the time again one last time. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Harry. Thanks for having me. Of course. Martians, go follow at On Mars Pod. Like, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time on Mars. Love you. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this episode of the On Mars Pod and for sticking around to the end, man. I really appreciate you guys. You are the real Martians. Like this video, comment below what your favorite part was, what was most inspiring to you. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications here on future interviews coming out soon, and also follow us on Instagram at On Mars Pod. Love you guys so much. We'll see you next time on Mars.